Okay, so so we have discussed the structure, contents, and the nature of the AK news. We have spent time this morning talk about that. So now we talk about the example of this, how to analyze AK news to help investors, to help managers to make a disclosure decision. And we have a group presentation. We're discussing more details, but I just want to give you a roadmap of what is example about. Okay, so like I discussed earlier, you can see that these pictures and this all information, these are all future information about the firm's engine, the firm's engine. So the manager are debating on whether they should let Mercedes-Benz know about the engine and buy more, or that investors know about the future engine, they can buy the stocks. And also managers are concerned whether the competitors will learn about the future engine information to copycat them technology. So this is the debate managers are having right now. And we are just use that as an example to see how exactly we can use AK information to help managers to make disclosure decisions. So these are the disclosure. These are the pictures of the engine. These are detailed information. If you look at the details, they give very detailed information about the engine, about the parameters, how the design, function, a lot of new information about the future engine product. Okay, and then the example we're talking about here is the technology peer pressure and the product disclosure. Is from the current review. So we are basically talk about this idea, how we use talk about idea in the paper to analyze the product disclosure from AK to help corporate managers to make disclosure decision. That's the example we are going to talk about right now. And like I always said, I want you guys to come up with your own idea. Okay, come up with your own idea. So let's see. This is what I was talking about. This is what I was talking about. Managers are facing trade-off. Disclose or not disclose. On one side, if they disclose more, investor will like it. If they disclose more, when they borrow money from the equity market and the loan market, people will give them lower cost of capital. Think about it. If I'm a firm, I'm always hiding information. Would you like to lend money to me? Are you going to do that? Even if you do so, you want to charge higher interest rate. And if I never disclose any information to the shareholders, would you invest in my stocks? And if I never disclose information, I will be sued. I will be sued because I should tell you some information I should have done. So on the one side, managers want to disclose information because they want to make shareholders happy. They want shareholders to trade on their stocks. They want to make the creditors happy, because if I don't disclose information, creditors will not lend the money to me or they charge high interest rate. I want to make the regulators happy, because I don't disclose, regulator will chase me, they give me some trouble. So on one side, managers, they want to disclose more information to make shareholders happy, to make regulators happy, to make the creditors happy. That's on the one side. On the other side, if they disclose information like the engine information, future engines, they are worried about the competitors will copy the technology, come up with similar products, hurts the future market share. So if I'm a corporate manager, I'm in a difficult position. What should I do? What I should do? So this is the some of the data AK News can analyze. The reason AK can analyze that is because from the AK News you can extract the future product information, right? You can extract the future product information. Once you extract the future product information, you can help managers to answer the question: should they disclose more to make these people happy, or should they hide information to protect themselves from competitors? Once you get all the information from the once you get all the product disclosure information from AK News, you can do some data analytics on that. This is example what we want to talking about. And then So what's the questions here? What's the questions here? The questions here, what we are trying to tell managers is, if so the message you want to test here is, if companies are facing competitors who have similar technology, then they should not disclose the information because it's too risky. The competitors will copycat their future product. However, if the managers, if the companies, their competitors do not have similar technology, then it's safe for the companies to disclose the information to the market, to make the investors happy, shareholders happy. This is the test we want to do using the data. So the idea here is that, just repeat it one more time. Idea here is we want to calculate the competitors of companies. How are their technologies similar to companies? If their competitors' technology are very similar to companies, if they disclose the future product, and the product will be easily copied by the competitors, they should not disclose that. However, if the competitor's technology is far away from companies, it's very difficult for companies to mimic the company's engine and technology. It's safe for companies to disclose the information to the shareholders, to regulators, to the creditors, so they can enjoy the benefit of let me see. So the idea here is if competitors have similar technology with companies, they shouldn't disclose. If they disclose, the product will be copycatted by the competitors. But if competitors' technology is far away from companies, and then they can disclose the information. They can make investors happy. They can make a Mercedes happy. They can make regulators happy. So that's the one we want to test. That's the one to test. That's the thing we want to test in the following. So how we test it? How we test it? So let's see. So what do we test is what we see here is there's two important variables. One is TPP. Another one is the product disclosure from AK News. So what do we test is we have to explain the two variables in a careful way so you can understand what does that mean. So TPP means what? TPP means what I said. How much competitors' technology similar to companies. If competitors have similar technology to companies, the TPP will be high. The TPP is technological peer pressure. TPP, technological peer pressure. So basically, if companies TPP is high, that means competitors, they have a similar technology with companies when TPP is high. Okay, so that's how we define the TPP. How we define the PD words. PD words is, do the company disclose more product information or less product information? When they disclose a lot of future product, the PD words will be high. If they disclose a little bit or not disclose information, the PD words will be 0 or low. So this is the two important variables here. So in other words, what do we want to see? What we want to see is if what we said is true. When companies facing high peer pressure in terms of technology, we should see high TPP will lead to low product disclosures. So the beta B here should be negative. Beta B here should be negative. Let me repeat one more time. So what do we want to see here? We want to see here is, if I'm a Cummins CEO, if I sense my competitors have the same technology as I do, so my TPP is high. If my TPP is high, then I don't want to disclose too much future product information. If I disclose, people will copycat my product. So high TPP will lead to low product disclosure. So the beta will be negative, the B will be negative. This is idea. And also, if my TPP is low, so basically, if I don't see other people have the same technology with me, if my TPP is low, I will disclose more information about a product. Because my competitors cannot copycat my technology, I can disclose them. I can make investors happy, regulators happy, creditors happy. So when my TPP is low, when peer pressure is low in terms of technology, I want to disclose more information. So this is what we want to see. We want to see a negative B on the TPP. And why we have other competitions, we have existing competitions, entrant competition, others are controls. Means what? Means holding everything else constant. Higher technological peer pressure will lead to low product disclosure. However, lower technological peer pressure will lead to higher product disclosure. So basically, that's the idea of the empirical model. Holding everything else constant, holding other competition constant, holding existing competition constant, holding entrant competition constant, holding everything else constant. We want to see that if the company facing high technological pressure from competitors, they don't disclose future product. But if they have low peer pressure from the technology, they will discuss more information about the future product to make Mercedes happy, to make investors happy. So that's the empirical model we have. We control a lot of stuff. And what you can see here is negative. So means after controlling for all other stuff, high peer pressure in terms of technology will lead to less product disclosure. You can see that, right? So that's what's regression. So if the companies are facing high technological pressure from the companies, they will disclose less. They will disclose less product disclosure. They will discuss less future product. So what do we see from companies is, we had a conversation from the companies managers. Interesting thing is, companies do not feel they facing high technological competition from their peers. Companies, they think their technology is unique. Companies feel like they are kind of have a technology advance in the industry. So that's why you see companies disclose a lot of future products. The companies disclose a lot of future engines. So in a practice, when we talk to companies managers, we found that companies just told us, they told us that they are one of the three or four engine manufacturing in the world. They have the technology other companies do not have. Other companies do not have, because they have the technology advantage. Because the competitors cannot easily copycat their technology, they enjoy disclosing the future product to make Mercedes happy, to make investors happy, to make creditors happy, without being threatened by the competitors, because competitors cannot easily copycat their technology. That's why we see the company's technology pressure is low. That's why when the company's technology pressure is low, companies disclose more product information to make the Mercedes and the investors and the creditors happy. So that's the empirical findings using the AK analysis. So basically, what we see here is this product worth. This one is calculated from the AK. So how you calculate that? So you have to find the item 8.01 first. And then how do you do that? And you find X bit of I.01. Once you find exhibit, you find what? You find this is about the product information. And then you count how many product information has been disclosed. The more product information is disclosed, the PD words will be high. The less product disclosure is disclosed, the PD words will be low. So basically, this variable PD words is calculated based on the AK news, based on the like I said one more time, you have to go to the item 8.01 or 7.01 first, and then you go to the if the summary doesn't have enough information, you have to go to the exhibit. We talk about exhibit, right? We talk about exhibit. You have to go to the exhibit. Once you go to exhibit, you have to identify this is a product, future product. Once you know this is a future product, you can calculate this variable, the product worth. Then once you have the variable, you can test how managers are doing. Is that true? Managers are facing high peer pressure in terms of technology. They disclose less future product. When managers are facing more product, when managers are facing more technology pressure, they will disclose less future product. When managers have low technology pressure, like commies, they will disclose more product disclosure. So you want to test that. You want to test if that's true. You want to test that if that's true. So that's basically the example I want to discuss with you guys. How exactly you use the AK, you use the AK news, to come up with the product disclosure measure, and you test if really the managers, how exactly managers are doing so. If the commies are doing that, the small managers, they will learn from commies. If managers are doing this, if commies is a huge company, if commies are when they have like a low peer pressure, they disclose more. When they have high peer pressure, they disclose let me take it back. If commies are doing this, if commies are facing high peer pressure, they disclose less future product. If commies are facing high low product technology pressure, they disclose more product information. If commies manager are doing that, other manager can learn from commies. The small managers, small firms, they will learn, oh, if this is what commies is doing, if it's commies managers doing, possibly other companies can actually follow the commies are doing the same thing. Basically, the idea is they can enjoy the disclosure benefit of making Mercedes happy, making investors happy, making the creditors happy without being threatened by the competitors. If commies are doing this, other corporate managers can actually learn from the commies behavior, disclosure behavior, learn from the commies the strategy. That's the idea. How we use the AK to analyze the disclosure strategy. So other students, other companies can learn from the commies the disclosure strategy by analyzing the AK news and by analyze everything. So